and welcome to 5225, 52 Weeks of Loving Movies, Week 8, where we're talking about Best Picture winners. Now, I actually got quite a few movies watched, for Best Picture winners watched for this episode, for this week, but I'm going to try to keep this as quick as possible. So if I don't go as deep as maybe I would have on another thing, that's why. I just don't want this to be over long, and I've got a big game event on the Dill Pickle Movie Network to do today. So I'm just going to try to get this done as quickly as possible. But if it's out, I don't know when it comes out, but when it does, go watch our Traders episode on the Dill Pickle Movie Network. We're doing a full season of Traders there. And, you know, maybe you don't even need to go find it. Go subscribe to the Dill Pickle Movie Network. Hit that bell notification to get notified when new videos come out, and it'll be right there, right on your phone. But without any further ado, let's talk about these movies. The first movie that I watched that won Best Picture, well, the first movie that I watched for this slate here was Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, from 2014. This was a movie I loved on first watch. That year was actually a really incredible year for Best Picture nominees, because Birdman was obviously nominated, but you also had Boyhood, Grand Budapest Hotel, Imitation Game, Selma, The Theory of Everything, Whiplash, and of course American Sniper, which is a movie I don't like, but it was nominated. That one would be my lowest. Whiplash, which is one of my favorite films of that decade, and definitely my favorite film of that year, was nominated for Best Picture. However, I am glad Birdman won. I would have loved to see Whiplash win, and that was the one I was rooting for. But Birdman is such an incredible meta commentary on a lot of things, including some of the actors in the movie, which I think is really, really fascinating. Obviously, it says a lot about theater and how the entertainment industry works, especially from that, both in movies and in theater. And my friend Dylan Randazzo, Dill Pickle Movie Network, I already mentioned his channel. He can tell you that this movie really captures. Well, I assume he would tell you. I believe he has told me before, but the movie really captures the culture of backstage, and it is exaggerated, and there are things, it's not a 1-to-1 comparison, but it does really capture that culture. I know there's a lot of people who don't love this movie, and part of it, I think, is the gimmick of the one-shot narrative, which I generally really like. I like when a film focuses on a specific style and keeps that. And I love it even more when it helps drive that narrative. It helps tell the story that they're trying to tell, because there is a urgency with this film. There's things keep going wrong. He keeps having to replace actors and that kind of stuff. Like a bunch of there is an urgency within this film, and I think that one-shot cinematography really helps illustrate that urge. And these one-shot features, or it's not one shot. We all know that it's not one shot. And that's where I'm actually going to come in here, is that certain heroes of these types of films are often overlooked. Editors, for example, are often not considered in that. But the fact that they're able to take this movie that is shot as though it's one shot, but is not, it's shot in many, many takes, just like any other movie. The fact that they are able to stitch that together in a way that makes it appear as though it is a single shot. And the film doesn't say that it's one shot either, because there are one or two blatant cuts, but I think those are kind of meant to represent time when Michael Keaton's character is not conscious. And I think that is it's similar. They do a similar thing in 1917. A lot of people will put 1917 above this film, and I disagree with that. I think that this one actually uses that style a lot better, in a way that you're not really looking for the cuts. I mean, you can see them if you're trying, but uh, it doesn't leave you. It doesn't feel like that's the thing it has going for it, because there's a lot going for it, in my opinion. I've also heard complaints about the length. I think it's very, very well paced. I think it's down to the incredible directing by Inarritu and the incredible editing by a name I should have. One moment. All right, I have it. Birdman was edited by Douglas Christ and Stephen Mirioni. And I think they did an incredible job, because the pacing is really, really good, and they, I don't want to say it's seamless, because if you look for the seams you can find them, but it's near seamless. The way that it is, the way that the style is kept intact. So there's this is two types of movies that I really, really like. I really love a magical realism movie, and this has that in there, especially once you get to the end and you see that last shot, that final shot. And there's also a meta narrative, which I absolutely love. Anytime that a movie can look at me and wink, it's just really great for me. And one of the meta things that I really, really love is involves two of the principal actors in it. First, Michael Keaton as Regan Thompson, is playing this, because this comes at a time when that was basically his story. He played this superhero for so long, and yeah, he went on to do other things, but he's primarily known for playing Batman amongst a certain generation of people. And just like Regan Thompson in this movie, Michael Keaton was experiencing his comeback. Like, this was the thing that was like bringing him back into prominence, amongst the larger film community, which he never really left. He'd always been around. He'd been making great movies. There's a lot of movies that he made between the 90s and this movie that I think are really great. If you haven't ever seen Game 6, it's a really, really great movie set in 1986, Game 6 of the World Series. Well, he's not at the World Series, but that is the time frame which it is set. But he is really great in that film, and he's done a lot of really good stuff. But this was his resurgence. This was where he came back and put himself back on the map, which is the same thing Regan Thompson is trying to do, and I love that. The other person is the other actor that is mirroring themselves is Edward Norton as Mike Shiner, because Edward Norton is known famously for being a very difficult person to work with, for being pretty pretentious about his job, and not being really a team player, which is exactly Mike Shiner, the character that he's playing. So he plays that role so well because that's him. He's basically playing himself. And the fact that, and I assume he knows that. I assume he knows what he's doing here. If he doesn't, wow, that's some oblivious narcissism. But I definitely assume that he knows what he's doing there, and he recognizes that that's what they are coming across. Now, knowing that you're that difficult and continuing to do it, that's questionable. But I love that he is able to play a character that is lampooning himself in such a way. So, but I said I was going to try to be brief, so I'm going to be brief here. As far as those movies, I already talked about what else was nominated. For me, it was down to Birdman, Boyhood, and Whiplash. I knew Whiplash didn't have a shot, so I kind of got that out of the way. I would have preferred Whiplash simply because it was my favorite movie of that year, but I love that this one won. And on the day, I remember putting a post, because I used to put up a post every year, letting my friends and family know kind of what I was, because I was known as somebody that's a pretty good Oscar predictor, letting everyone know what I predicting. And I basically said, it's going to come down to the use of time, because the two front runners, in my opinion, were Boyhood and Birdman, which used time in very, very different ways, but used time as their means of storytelling. Birdman, used it was meant to look like one shot. So it truncated that time that it seemed like it took to make that movie, and put that on display as all very urgent and rushed. Boyhood was shot over 12 years or however long. And every year they shot a new sequence for that movie. It took such a long time, and it's meant to look like it spans that time because they use those same actors, and you watch them age. So I said that the Best Picture Oscar that year was going to come down, was a matter of time. And one of those two were going to win, and I successfully, correctly predicted Birdman, and I'm very proud of that. But yeah, I love Birdman. Tell me in the comments, what do you think of Birdman? Are you one of the people who does not like it and thinks it's a bad pick, or are you, like me, someone who is impressed with it and just loves the journey that it goes on? I'd love to hear that. The second movie I watched, and oh boy, this one might get me a little bit of hate, because the second movie I watched was Chicago from 2002, won Best Picture to the 2003 Oscars. This was the last Best Picture winner that I didn't successfully predict until Green Book beat Roma, because I had been correct. I had correctly predicted every Best Picture winner from 2003, or the 2003 movies in 2004, until Green Book won in 2018, I believe that was, 2019 Oscars. So, a 15-year correct streak, win streak for me on that. But the last one before that was Chicago, and that a lot of that is down to naivete. I was a young man who was unabashedly in love with the Lord of the Rings movies. I needed Two Towers to win, and it didn't. And I was very upset by that. Looking back, I'm like, oh, okay, obviously Two Towers wasn't going to win. Everything was pointing to Chicago. Chicago was going to win. It's very obvious. Plus, they were clearly waiting for the third one to award that movie instead. Another reason that I didn't predict it is because I didn't really like Chicago. I love movie musicals. I love stage adaptations, or film adaptations of stage musicals. I'm a big fan of these type of things. Just for some reason, this movie does not connect to me, and I since have kind of learned why, and that is because I don't like Rob Marshall musicals. I just don't like the way he stages them. I don't know the exact thing that I could say I don't enjoy about Rob Marshall musicals, but they don't have the life that I need them to have, that I get from the stage musicals or from the soundtracks. And I've never seen the full Chicago show on stage. I've seen a lot of clips. And I've seen, actually, that's not true. I did see one production of Chicago on a bootleg. But I've listened to the original, or the BB Newirth and Rankin soundtrack a billion times, and I love it. And I think that these two leads, or actually all three leads, just don't have the same life and energy that I want from those characters. I think that Catherine Zeta-Jones is completely miscast in that role. She has the attitude, and she even has the look. I just don't think I don't think her performance is what I wanted from that character, from Velma Kelly. And Renee Zellweger, I think that she is closer to what we need from that. But she also, there's also something missing there, and I can't tell you exactly what it is. It just doesn't connect with me in the way I wanted it to, and I need it to. Queen Latifah, I think, is really good. I think she's great in this movie. I think Taye Diggs, I go back and forth on him. I think that sometimes when I hear his voice announcing the next thing, it annoys me. But sometimes I'm like, yeah, no, he's doing his job. And he's doing it well. But Richard Gere, I think, is probably the closest of the main three to what I would want from that character. I still am not a huge fan of it, but it doesn't bother me in the same way that the Velma Kelly, Roxy Hart castings do. And I don't know that I can fully explain it any better than that right now. And I'm probably not. And I don't want to just like hate on this movie. So I'm probably going to move on from this. But I will go through the movies that were nominated and kind of tell you where I would have landed. The nominated movies for that year were Chicago, of course, Gangs of New York, The Hours, Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, and The Pianist. And I will tell you right now, I would have preferred any of those one over Chicago. I mean, obviously my favorite was Lord of the Rings, Two Towers. If I were giving my vote, I would have voted for that. I also really have a soft spot for Gangs of New York. Of course, that one, I really wanted the best actor to win to go to that, but it went to Adrian Brody, which is an incredible performance. But that's not what we're talking about here. The Hours, also incredible. I'm glad that Nicole Kidman won her Oscar for that because she's incredible in that movie. Yeah, I just think that I would have preferred any of those movies win Best Picture over that. But the writing was on the wall. I was just being naive. So I'm going to move on from this. So I'm not just continuing to hate on this movie, which I do like. I enjoy it. I watch it and I have a fine time. I just don't love it. It does not feel like the Best Picture to me from that year, which is fine. And it's not like that's uncommon. People have that opinion about the Best Picture winners all the time, every year, a lot. So it's not just that. It's just not for me, and that's okay. And I'm glad that there are people out there who really love it and are glad that it won Best Picture. The next film that I watched was one of my first watches. I do have two first watches for this year, but one of my first watches was The Best Years of Our Lives from 1946. Now, this has been on my list for a very long time. It was part of a movie club a while back that I was part of, and I didn't actually get around to participating that month, so I didn't watch this one. And then they covered it on Picture This over on the Dill Pickle Movie Network, and I remember I skipped past this part because I didn't want them to spoil anything for me because I knew I wanted to watch it, and I finally did, and I'm so glad because what a film. I absolutely love this movie. This is probably my favorite of this slate of all the movies I watched. I mean, there's a couple that really come close and maybe tied for a couple of them are maybe tied, but especially the first three, it's my favorite. But Best Years of My Life. It is one of the best films to ever tackle the post-war subject to comment on soldiers coming home from war. I think it's one of the best films to ever do that. Maybe the best film to ever do that. I mean, there are a couple that I really, really love that do that really well. But I think this is probably, at least right now, because it is pretty fresh, and I maybe I have recency bias on its side, but I think it's probably the best movie to cover the post-war stress that soldiers go through. I love that it won so many Oscars, including I love that it won Best Picture. I haven't seen all of the movies that were nominated that year, but it's definitely from the ones I have seen, it is the one I would have given it to. This film was also won for Frederick March for Best Actor, which, by the way, the fact that Dana Andrews was not nominated for Best Actor, completely snubbed. He wasn't nominated for Best Actor or Supporting Actor. He was completely snubbed. He feels like the primary character to me. So like he does feel like the leading actor role. But he held so much of the emotion of this movie up himself, and he does it so freaking well. It's just a shame that he was completely snubbed. It really sucks, but that doesn't take away from anything here because Frederick March won for Best Actor, and Harold Russell, who played Homer in the film, won 2 Oscars for the same role. It's the I believe only time that's ever happened. Where an Oscar won the same an actor won an Oscar for this 2 Oscars for the same role, not even for the same role, for the same performance. because he won an honorary Oscar for, and I quote, for bringing hope and courage to his fellow veterans through his performance, which is very, very nice. And it's true. He lost both of his hands in World War II, and so he comes back and gets this role in this movie and knocks it out of the park. He's incredible, and then ends up winning Best Supporting Actor award for it as well. So he won 2 Oscars for the same performance, which is incredible. I read a little a bit about his journey after this movie, because he wasn't in a whole lot after this. But William Wyler, the director of The Best Years of Our Lives, apparently told him that he should go back to school because there wasn't much of a call for a guy with no hands in the motion picture industry, which might sound harsh or like he's crushing his dreams, but he ended up being exactly right. Like Harold Russell was grateful for that advice, because there wasn't much. He did a little bit, but really he was just playing World War II veterans, and he was typecast in that role. And even being typecast, there still wasn't a lot to go for him. And Wyler had said, because after a while they run out of ideas for you, and they did. So he went back to school, and he got a business degree from Boston University, which I think is pretty cool that he went back to school, got that, because William Wyler was like, look, you're great, but they're going to use you and discard you, and gave him some really good advice. So I think that's pretty cool. So anyway, back to the film. It's just a really beautiful commentary on life of a veteran coming home. And it's something that we still have a problem with today. We are not taking care of our veterans in the way that we should be when they come home. They go out and they fight for the country. Some of them, risk death. Many of them do die, but the ones that come back, they risk their lives, but they aren't cared for the way they should be cared for by the government or by society. And one thing I really like about this movie is it is able to be critical of war itself, while also propping up the veterans, and not saying anything negative about the people who went out there, but it is able to kind of have a critical view of it without being super cynical. Like it does feel hopeful, and I really, really love that. And this movie's incredible. If you've never seen The Best Years of Our Lives, go watch it. It's wonderful. Absolutely. The movies that this was nominated alongside Henry V, It's a Wonderful Life, The Razor's Edge, and The Yearling. I've seen a few of those, not all of them, as I mentioned before. Best Years of Our Lives is the one that I would have given it to now that I've seen it for that year. Even though I do love a couple of those very, very much. It's a Wonderful Life I watch every year. It's just a really great movie. But I'm going to move on to the next movie I watched, which is Spotlight, another really heavy hitter for me. Again, one that I predicted back in 2015 or 2016 to win the Best Picture. So Spotlight from 2015 is just an incredible movie. I love this movie so much. It's got a lot going for it that I really care about. It's a journalism movie. It's critical of abuse, and especially abuse within religion. They are standing up to power, which is something that I've mentioned many times is something that really resonates with me. They're standing up to power because they are in a Catholic city that does not want them to make the church look bad, but they say, no, we have to say something. I've seen this movie several times, and I can't really understand why so many people are upset with this win. Like, I get if you wanted something else to win, because there are some really great movies nominated that year. And I understand if there's like, oh, this should have won, or I wish this had won. What I don't understand is the people who are just like angry about it and who like treat it like this movie didn't deserve it. It absolutely deserved it. The writing, directing, editing, it's all so powerful and so well executed. Like some of the best executed of any of those things you've ever seen, like in my opinion. To the point where we all know what happened here. Like this was a public thing. It was a very, very famous public thing. But to the point where, at least for me, you can watch it, and even though you know how it's going to go, still feel that tension, still feel the need for the rooting for them to find the information and to get that information out there, and not, to not bend to the will of the city. And it's just very, very powerful, and it speaks to a lot of things that I really love. Start to finish, this movie has me gripped. The performances in it are so good. There's another Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton had a nice little string of great movies and Best Picture winners, but not just Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton's great. Rachel McAdams, Mark Ruffalo, who spent time with the guy he was portraying just to make sure he got the voice right and the mannerisms right, which you can really see in that performance. Stanley Tucci, who is just really one of my favorites of all time anyway. He's so good. Liev Schreiber, even Billy Crudup. It's just that it's stacked just full of these really great actors, and they all are performing at like peak levels. It's just a movie I really love a lot. I would love to hear in the comments how you feel about it, and if you can kind of explain why if you hate this win, why you hate it. And I want to hear more than I just thought that Fury Road should have won. Like, if that's your reasoning, like, I get it. You're upset. You wish that something else had won, but to be angry at this film, like some people consider it a huge miscarriage of justice. And it's just something I don't understand, because I think that this film is a masterpiece. I think it's expertly crafted. So please let me know in the comments if you have some strong thoughts on this. All right. Spotlight was nominated alongside The Big Short, which is a movie I love a lot. In fact, there was a time when this was above Spotlight in terms of my ranking of that year. Having revisited them both a lot, I still love them both so much, but Spotlight has just endured to that point where it's reached masterpiece status and has risen to the top of that list. Not of 2015, because Inside Out is my favorite movie of 2015, but it's right there below it. It's just number 2. The Bridge of Spies, which I think is a fine movie, it just doesn't really reach the rest of it. It's good. I like it. Brooklyn, which is a good movie. Mad Max Fury Road, which is the one that I hear people upset about a lot, that this one beat it. Mad Max Fury Road was never going to win, and I'll just tell people that. If it had won, it'd been really cool, and I would have liked to have seen a movie like that win Best Picture. It wasn't going to happen. I don't love it as much as a lot of people around me love it, but I do like it a lot. I think it's a very, very good movie. It's just it just doesn't do it for me like some of the other movies do. The Martian, which is a great film, one that I really love, Ridley Scott picture. The Revenant, which is one that people thought was going to win. That was the favorite to win that year in terms of betting odds. I didn't see it happening, and I think that's why I correctly predicted upset. Predicting this upset was actually one of my most proud moments as a Oscar prognosticator, because I just couldn't see it happening. I just didn't see it happening. I had this gut feeling, which is how we used to do it old school, and I went with Spotlight, and I turned out to be right. The Revenant's a good movie. It's not one I enjoy watching so much, but it is a really expertly crafted movie, and I really enjoy that. And then Room, which is one of my favorites of the year. I love Room. I think the performances in that are so good. I think there's a lot happening in the subtext that you could watch it several times and find something new. You could talk for hours about how good that movie is and about what's happening in the subtext of that movie. I think that's an incredible movie, but Spotlight was my pick. It would have been where my vote went unless Inside Out was nominated, which it wasn't nominated for Best Picture. But yeah, so that's Spotlight. Tell me in the comments how you feel about Spotlight. We already talked about that. Tell me if you can explain the problem. And again, if it's just I would have rathered something else, that's not what I'm looking for. I want to know why you're angry about it. That's what I want to know. And if you're not angry about it, don't do that, but still comment. The next movie I watched was Oppenheimer from last year. It's the last one to win. Of course, this is coming out the day before the 2025 Oscars. So depending on when you watch this, this is not the most recent Best Picture winner. But if you're watching it before March 2nd, 2025, this is the most recent Best Picture winner. I am, for lack of a better term, a Nolan fanboy, and I hate the connotation that comes with that. I've loved him basically since Memento. Every time he comes out with a movie, I love it. Some aren't as good as the others, and you can make an argument for that. I don't know why, if he makes a movie like Tenet, people just write him off. Like, that doesn't make sense to me, because we don't do that with other people. No one writes off Spielberg forever just because he made The Post. That's a good movie. I don't know. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't get why he gets written off so quickly. And I think a lot of it has to do with the types of fans that are fans of his. I'm not a Nolan fanboy in the way that the toxic Nolan fanboys are. I just am such a huge fan of his work, and I'm glad he finally got his due. That is the main thing that I want to point out here. As far as the movie goes, what a feat. This is a movie on an epic scale. Nolan is known for playing with time, and he sometimes gets made fun of for that. He's good at it. Like, that's his bread and butter, and he does it so well. And we've seen him make movies that aren't about the effects of time, and those have been great. So I don't know. So it's not that he has to rely on it. It's just people like to make fun of it, I guess. I don't know. I'm going to stop defending Chris Nolan here for a second, and just talk about how I like the way this was structured, because it also hopped around in time, and whether it was in black and white and color kind of told you whether it was before or after the main events of the story, because there was a main narrative that they were trying to tell, and it wasn't the present day one, because the most recent day one, because those are all in black and white, which is basically telling you the stuff that happened in the past to Oppenheimer's story, to the main story that of J. Robert Oppenheimer that they were telling. Stuff that happened before that was black and white, and the stuff that happened after that, all of that was in black and white. And sometimes you got to the point where it was happening in where stuff you had already seen in black and white caught up to his timeline, the timeline that he is running through that we are showing in color, and you would see that in color. So I really like the way that he structured that. The performances in this movie are astounding. I was a Paul Giamatti should have won for Best Actor that year. That was who I was rooting for. That was my favorite performance of that year. And gosh, he just, I know I'm not a person who really gets his turn, but dude needs one. Like, he constantly gives performances worthy of Best Actor or Best Supporting Actor, Oscar worthy performances. Dude just can't catch a break. But that's fine, because Cillian Murphy gave an incredible performance. One of my friend Michelle, told me last year that he sounded like Robin Williams, and now I can't unhear it. But I think that's part of the performance. I think the performance is incredible. I think that that Robin Williams-esque voice that he puts on really shows this confidence and vulnerability, which I really love from that character and from characters in general. But yeah, just that ensemble cast. That ensemble is so good, and it's just full of actors, some great actors, some big name actors who are giving their best in this movie. And I think it's absolutely incredible. I'm not going to go through all of them because it would take far too long, but just everybody is doing such good work. I did enjoy this very much. The Holdovers was my favorite movie of 2023. So that I wasn't like rooting for this one to win Best Picture. I did predict it. And I'm glad that it won Best Picture again, because I just want Nolan to get his due. But I am glad that it won Best Picture, and it's a really incredible film. And it's a little new for me to have any new insights on it, really. So there's not a whole lot for me to talk about with this that I haven't already said or that you haven't heard from everybody else. Yeah, it's just a great film. If you've never seen it, please go watch it. It's just an epic experience. And I guess I should mention about how culturally relevant this movie is, because the famous Barbenheimer. So many people went and saw it as a double feature with Barbie, including me. And that was a really great experience. Those two movies are kind of inextricably linked in my head because of the culture surrounding them and the fact that I watched them back to back as part of this event. You know, I go to double trouble features all the time, so those movies don't necessarily always get linked. But because I watched it just kind of for this event back to back, they're just kind of linked together. I do think that this is this is obviously the better film in my opinion, and in the Academy's opinion. But I do love that they are linked there, and the kind of synergy that you can't recreate. They tried to. I knew the studios were immediately going to try to recreate that, and they did. And you can't recreate something grassroots like that. Oppenheimer was nominated alongside American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, which I really love, Barbie, which I just mentioned, The Holdovers, which was my favorite film of that year, Killers of the Flower Moon, which is very good, better book though, Maestro, Past Lives, which is great first feature. I think it's a first feature. It's a great feature. It's a great movie anyway. Poor Things, which is probably my second favorite movie of that year, and then Zone of Interest, which is such a difficult watch that it's hard to call it a favorite or even talk about any joy I get from it. But it is a really great movie. I can say that. My vote would have obviously gone to The Holdovers. That's the one that I thought should have won Best Picture. And then Poor Things I thought was going to upset Oppenheimer. But Oppenheimer ended up winning, and I did predict that they were going to win. And I'm glad because what I said before. But I'm going to move on to the last movie that I watched for this, and that is An American in Paris from 1951. Now, I watched this. I made sure to put this one on the list because I did promise my friend Carly that I would watch this as part of my this theme, because she is going to be on an upcoming episode of Picture This over on the Dill Pickle Movie Network, where they're covering 1951, and An American Paris won Best Picture that year. And so I told her, yeah, I had promised her that I was going to do this as part of it, as not only for this, but as prep for when that episode comes out. And I like to try to watch all of the movies that they cover on there. So it's prep. You know, I'd promised originally when I first started this, I'm not going to count movies that I watch for other recordings and other projects, but that's different because that is a leisure project and not a recording project. So I'm okay with including this. But An American in Paris, 1951. This was interesting because I'd seen stuff from this, but never the whole movie. This was my other first watch. There were things in it that I really loved, but there was also some stuff that made me feel kind of cold and disconnected from it. So I'm going to go through both of those things, and this is not going to be it's not going to be like Chicago, where it's just like, oh, I hated all of it, because I really liked this. I thought it was very good, and there's some things about it that are going to make me go back and watch it. But one of the things I really liked about this is how it explored our fantasies, no matter how unrealistic they are, and how they help fuel us, how they keep us going, even if things seem hopeless. Like, I love that basically everybody in this movie, or at least the main people, the main three actors in this movie, all had these fantasy moments where they would kind of look forward to what they wanted or to what they couldn't have. And that is kind of what kept them going all the time. And sometimes they kind of had to let those fantasies go, but at least they were focused on it. At least they tried. And that is, that I think is very admirable. And I really loved how it focused on our hopes and our dreams and our fantasies, and how that was illustrated, which is very, it's a musical, so that's very good. You can do that very easily. And I think they executed that really, really well. I also love that coda at the end, that huge song and dance number that happens in his last fantasy there at the end, is so good, and it's so well staged that's going to be the thing that's going to bring me back to it. I want to watch it again soon, just because I really like that scene, and I want to. I'm hoping that by rewatching it for that scene, I connect to some of the other things a little bit more, because I didn't connect to Jerry and Lisa. I don't know how you say that. I didn't connect to their relationship. He did not feel like the person that Lisa deserved, Henri did. And that was part of the problem, is that I never felt like he was ever the person that she should have been able to end up with. I also didn't really connect with her as a character too much because she's basically just the object of his affection. You don't get much out of her. So the fact that those two things, like, I didn't feel like he should win that one, and the fact that I didn't really connect with her as a character, made that whole, that like the central plot of this movie, or like the big um the big the big journey in this film, I felt like I didn't connect to it. And so that was a problem. And I'm hoping on rewatch, I do connect to it a lot more, because there are, as I said, there's a lot about this that I really liked. I enjoyed my time watching it. I had a good time. It's just by the end, there were things about it that just made me left me cold like that. But Gene Kelly is magnetic on screen as always. He's just such a good song and dance man. And even, no matter what, there's I'm sure there's plenty that we can say about him personally if you've heard stories about how he is on set and stuff. But I'm not going to focus on that. He's just dynamic on screen, and I thought that his supporting cast, for the most part, kept up with him a lot. I think that there are a couple who kind of fell a little bit shorter, but for the most part, the other two guys that were his friends, Henri and I forget the other guy's name, and Milo. Those characters all felt like they kept up with him in terms of characterization and their presence on screen, which I thought worked really well. So I liked this movie. I hope to like it a lot more in the future on rewatches. This movie was nominated alongside Decision Before Dawn, A Place in the Sun, Quo Vadis. Is that how you say that? I don't know. And A Streetcar Named Desire. I've seen a couple of those. I'm not sure what I would have awarded. I'd need to rewatch basically all of them to really be able to tell you, which I'm going to do soon, but to be able to tell you what I would have given maybe Streetcar Named Desire, because I have seen that one. It's very good. But I'm glad that it won Best Picture, so I could watch it here, and I could watch it for Carly. Hi, Carly. I know you're watching. You're one of my faithful viewers. So I'm glad I got to watch that. Watch it for this at least. But that's it. Those are the movies I watched. I try to keep it brief. Hope it's going to be below an hour at least, so that's good. All right, but let's talk about next week, because this was the last week of our Oscar month. All the ones we did this month were based on Oscar categories. But we're gonna move away from Oscars now. We're going to talk about Korean cinema. Now, I know there's a very famous movie that I very, very much love. That is a Korean movie that won Best Picture, and I'll probably talk about it. I feel like that's why I didn't include it in Best Directors or Best Picture winners, because I think I was saving it for this. And so we're probably going to watch it. You probably know what I'm talking about, as it's the only Korean movie to ever win Best Picture. It's the only international film to ever win Best Picture. So there's that. But I'm going to be covering Korean films, Korean cinema next week. I promise they won't all be Bong Joon-ho, I think. So talk to me in the comments. What are some of your favorite Korean films? Let me know if there's some I should check out. What are some of your favorite Best Picture winners? How did you feel about the ones that I watched? Did you agree with me? Did you disagree? Talk to me in the comments. Bye.